Welcome back to the Account Management Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Alex Raymond. Today, we've got something special. Puhm, CEO of Desired Path, is here to flip the script on how we think about customer journeys. Kia talks about how truly understanding the customer's path, not just our version of it, can transform the way we engage, retain, and grow those customer relationships. We dig into what it means to really align your business with the customer's actual needs. And I'll tell you, if you're looking to boost loyalty and keep your customers for the long haul, which is what every account manager really wants, this episode is for you. Thanks for being here, and I hope you enjoy my conversation with Kia Puhm. Hey, Kia, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Alex, for having me. I'm really excited to be having this conversation with you.
Now, since we talked last, you have a different name for your company, and you now run a company called Desired Path. That's a really cool name. Tell us about what it means and how you link that into your work.
Yeah. So there's throughout my career, there's sort of this evolution that I came to on how I view customer centricity and how to best deliver results for customers. And it's predicated on understanding a customer journey. I'm also a big fan of architecture, and I came to learn about this notion of a desired path or a desired line. And what that means in architecture is if you know those on the sidewalk or those shortcuts that people take, instead of taking the sidewalk around, the grass might be trampled down. That might be a desired line or a desired path. And desired paths are usually shortcuts, an easier, faster way to do something, or a nicer way, let's say along a stream or in a park. And and it's very human centric. So we create these based on just intuitive needs of what we enjoy and what we like and how to meet a result. And so I wanted to take that name Desired Path because I really believe in customer journey mapping as a way to understand customer centricity. And so this notion of a desired path is, if we understand what that customer's desired path, what are the patterns of their most successful approach to achieving their results using your product or services, then we're going to be able to line operationally to that and support that. And so that's what my company is called Desired Path, and I help companies determine what their customers' desired path are so that they can then align operationally to have basically a win-win sort of situation with their customers and their own results.
Well, what I like about the name Desired Path is it implies that the customer knows what they're doing, and that the customer knows what they want. And so often, the way that I've seen this represented before is, there's some meme on LinkedIn or whatever, and there's, it's kind of like, here's the way we think we're supposed to be doing it, and the customer is taking a shortcut right through the park. Point being, customer knows where they want to go, and it's more our job to accommodate their needs than to like force them into our view of the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So two kind of thoughts on that is, we might say, well, but the customer might not know what they need or what they want. But I do think it's absolutely true that they know what they want and what they need for their business. And then it's our responsibility as vendors or service providers to then understand how can they best leverage our services and products to get what they need in their results. So it's this marriage of us understanding the customer from their vantage point, walking in their shoes in that desired path, and then understanding how to, in the most effective and efficient manner, allow them to leverage things really successfully, our products and services, to achieve their desired path. So so yeah, it's about tapping into that wisdom that customers know and of what they need, and then guiding it and bringing in your products and services in alignment to that.
Awesome. Well, I was really excited to talk with you today because one of the topics that comes up a lot in the world of account managers is the customer journey, mapping the customer journey. And I would love to do a kind of a deep dive into the art and science of that. And I'll even say from my point of view, I don't feel like I have a really good handle on what we mean when we talk about customer journey, or what it's actually meant to do, either for me or for my customer. Can you walk us through how we can effectively use this kind of tool, and what we might do with it?
Yeah. So, um, I see continually companies talking about a customer journey. And when I take a look at what those customer journeys are, they tend to be um, more like process maps for how we would like our customers in an ideal situation to progress with the use of our products and services. And we know that customers in their environment and what they're trying to do, we're just a component of their journey. We're not their journey in its entirety. So I like to use a workshop type of format and getting a whole bunch of cross-functional perspectives and ideas into a room in journey mapping what we think the customer's journey is from their perspective. And often, I start with good old brainstorming tactics and actual tactile. Of course, things can be done online and with all sorts of various software, but I also like this tactile approach of people sticky noting and putting down thoughts and ideas of what that journey is. And often what happens is, of course, like I had already just previously mentioned, we've got a lot of processes that we want customers to follow. But inevitably, I start to talk and nudge the group in terms of a direction of, well, what is the customer trying to achieve? And I even use like I language, as if the customer and all of its employees and its customer base was sort of like a person. It's like, this is what I'm trying to achieve at this stage of the journey, and this is what I'm trying to accomplish. These are the results I'd like to see. This is what I'm feeling, my moments of truth, and where I'm anxious or where I'm excited. And we start to collect those ideas and concepts into a journey map that is really from the customer's perspective versus a process flow.
And do we involve the customer? So, like, would your work typically include going and finding your customer's customer and asking them what happened and getting real firsthand knowledge?
Okay, so I love this question, and this is going to be I'm going to say yes and no. But here's we have to understand a little bit of the philosophy, and maybe I'll just give your listeners a little bit of a background of my background to see how this philosophy came about. So 29 years in software, built every post-sales function in a software company in order to make customers successful, and try to figure out how to do that in an efficient manner. And I started out early in my career thinking, we're going to document everything and have everything like processized and etc. And realize that as soon as the ink dries, they're no longer valid, right? That
Right.
customer's
Yeah, sure.
desired path is not
Sure.
set in stone. And worked at various different companies, Day Software, which is now Adobe Experience Manager, and at Eloqua, that became Oracle, with its product and marketing. And we did all sorts of, MBA textbook sort of operational processes, like journey mapped, and then of course did it by process mapping more so, and looked at segmentation models, and looked at benchmarked against best of breed SaaS companies, etc. And in the end, after Eloqua was acquired by Oracle, and we sort of did this rear view mirror sort of, hey, what was, and I remember the president of the company, Alex Shootman, asking me, what is the number one thing that you think would have, that was the number one thing that sort of got us into the direction that we wanted to, in terms of, increasing renewal rates and customer retention scores and NPS scores, etc. And I I brought it back down to that journey mapping and that customer centricity. My philosophy is on this notion of the intelligent framework, this customer-centric model that needs to keep evolving. We need to keep observing what the customer's patterns of their success are and keep being organizationally agile. Take those insights, put those into the operational model, and keep evolving how we are making customers successful. And that is an ongoing, it should never be static. That should always evolve. The market is always evolving. Our customers are always evolving. Our products and services are always evolving. So we need to be observing something and getting really, really good at learning from the insights and incorporating those and reuse it, like elevating the way we keep elevating and evolving the way we keep servicing our customers. And what that means then is, and I know this is, people are going to be horrified and think this is craziness, but you actually, if you're doing that and observing it, you're not only getting customer feedback through, directly by talking with them, or sentiment through your account management team or through NPS scores, but also through data in product usage, et cetera, and you're taking all of this, and that's telling the truth. And I find that, so I tend to create with clients an intelligent framework first and start to see how it evolves. And I've had customers going, well, aren't we going to talk to customers? And I say, well, yes. And I've actually had clients that say, okay, let's create the intelligent framework, and then I'd like you to do the same workshop with customers. And it was almost identical. And I didn't share the results of the other groups until the very end, which tells you that there's a lot of intuitive knowledge and wisdom on both sides on what is needed to be successful when both parties understand that. So I like to have that framework in place and start validating it through operations and then talking to the customer, because I find that if you were to then just start to go to customers and ask them, what is your journey, or what do you need? It's such a motherhood and apple pie sort of question. Like, where do you start?
And yeah, nobody really thinks like that, do they? It's not like I think around and think, oh, in what ways do I want to interact with this company, and what were my needs ahead of time, and what were my emotional response to such and such. Yeah, you're right. So it sounds like, better processes
to validate something.
Right, to have a framework is a respond to this, react to this.
Exactly. And I find that too often there's a lot of consultants out there that are doing intensive customer interviews. And I think if you're doing like a lot of customer interviews, I mean, you must not even know your customer. Like that you might need to do that because you have no clue about your customer base. But you're going to get a lot of information, and then how do you put that information together to provide some sort of operational framework? And this is why I start almost in a reverse direction. I start with that desired path, and then start to reverse engineer on what that framework should look like, and then go and start validating that with customers. Because that's more powerful. And then they see something, and we're all able to say what works and doesn't when we're presented with something. If we're just asked an open question, it's a lot harder to provide really detailed information that you need in order to be successful.
So one of the things that I've seen companies do the wrong way, at least I think it's the wrong way, is like the account management team will just like create their own version of the customer journey. And they'll sort of do it in a silo, they'll do it in isolation. But that's not going to be very effective, because we're missing a lot of information there. So who's in the room when we're doing these customer journeys, and who's the ultimate owner of the journey?
Yeah. Okay. So who's in the room? I think it should be cross-functional representation from across the organization. I even have HR, finance, like roles that QA, roles that you would think would not even, roles that wouldn't identify with needing to be in a room to discuss the customer journey. But actually, we all have different entry points or connection points along the journey with customers. And so I find that when you've got different perspectives on the journey from individuals, you have a more fulsome and more comprehensive and therefore more likely to be accurate representation of what that customer journey is. So in the room, I like to have a lot of different perspectives in there. It's always interesting when we talk about owners, because the whole company should be responsible for the journey, right? Mm-hmm. If there is any aspect of the company that is not responsible for the customer journey, I would then argue, why does that function exist in the company? Why do you need them? Because at some point, everybody is indirectly or indirectly responsible. And that's why I don't think, if you have created a customer-centric model and you understand what your journey is and the whole organization is aligned to it, we don't need to be talking about who owns the journey. We will then be talking about what each function and each role needs to do in order to make the customer successful. And then the ownership discussion falls away. Like, if we're talking about who owns the journey, then we don't understand our customer journey, and we're not properly aligned to supporting the customers to be successful, because we're still siloed and we're thinking that somebody else in the organization should own it. And I think that's the wrong way to think about it.
So when I hear you saying that, I'm assuming, or one of the thoughts that pops up to me is, this means that there's some alignment that the CEO or president or whatever, some C-level person is doing, sometimes probably bashing heads together to get a result that they're looking for. But that's really the question, right? So there's a risk that we do this activity and that we get partial alignment with some part of the company, as opposed to, what we really truly are living and breathing this customer-centric thing. And that doesn't always occur naturally to the C-suite. Sometimes it's on the website, but it's not always in the behaviors of the company. So how do we deal with that?
This is what I love. I love this question. I get so excited about it. I completely geek out on this. This is why I have become fanatical, or why I'm so excited about and why I've built my whole business around the customer journey first, is when you understand the patterns of your most successful customer and you understand their desired path, you cannot help but organizationally align to it, because it becomes very apparent if you're not aligned to it. And actually, everybody wants to be aligned to that. It makes it easier to understand each other within the organization, and how each role would be helping to function to help support the customer. And I can give you some specific examples of that. In various locations, we always know that in account management or customer success and sales, there might be some natural friction that arrives. There's always natural friction and healthy friction that exists amongst different functions within an organization. And one of them, of course, is on the sales and customer success side, as to, who owns the customer at what point of the journey and who's responsible for what. And, I've seen where at Eloqua, when I joined, sales was not harnessing actually the amount of benefit that customer success was offering to the customer base. And they were so busy going to sell and sell. And there was difficulty in terms of getting sales to talk about, the post-sales aspect. Of course, sales starts to get nervous about slowing down the sales cycle and getting too detailed into the operational side of things to discuss that. But at the same time, that sets up the post-sales organization, or the CS the account management organization. We set our customers up for success if upfront, even in the sales cycle, they are very clear about their customer journey and how they're going to be successful. So I found, and in customers that I consult with too, I find that it's really important to get the sales to talk about the customer journey in a way that doesn't slow down the sales cycle, et cetera, but that gets the customer's understanding, because then we lay the foundation for a really successful deployment. There's no sort of like when the customer signs on the dotted line and we pass them over to the CS organization, that all of a sudden that the customer feels like the wool, the carpet's been pulled from under them, or that there's been a bait and switch type of thing. They know what to expect, and now we can manage those customers a lot more seamlessly and a lot more effectively, because they already are familiar with what that journey should look like. And so the very specific example I was talking, like I needed at one point for the organization to talk about customer success and what we're doing, because we were finding it difficult for customers to do some of the things that we knew that they needed to do to be successful. And I use the analogy like, working out a gym. Sometimes people join, but then they don't necessarily want to do all the exercise because it's painful. That happens with customers too. We know that there has to be some things that they need to do. So what I started to work with and what I work with in clients on the sales side is okay, what's in it for the sales side? And so you start to say, how could they start to win deals? What is a competitive differentiator? How can they start to do objection handling? And when you start to talk about, hey, this is what we're doing the journey, this is how all of our customers have been successful, we actually have the insights because we've mapped out the customer's desired path. We've got insights from this intelligent framework that keeps giving us statistics on what the results the customers are achieving. That's really meaty information that organizations usually don't have to give to their sales team to start selling. And all of a sudden now, sales is really interested in that journey. They now want to follow that. They want to talk about that journey. And so there's just an example alignment. I've got other examples on, product and customer success, and, how do you figure out what's going to be in the roadmap and et cetera. Well, if you start to talk about product features in terms of what customers need to be successful, and then it's easy to start relating that to revenue. Like, okay, these are the functions used most, and so this has to work, and this is what our customers, when they're following this desired path, we see them achieving these types of results, and you can put monetary numbers behind that. Then product starts to listen, because all of a sudden the CEO is listening and the CFO are listening, and now it doesn't have to be a debate about product technical features that maybe the executive suite doesn't need to get in the detail with, or nor that they want to, but you're speaking their language in terms of revenue as well.
Now, what is the customer journey map wind up looking like? So what's the deliverable? Does it, is it stuck on a wall? Does it become a slide somewhere? How do we memorialize it? And how often do you then revisit the journey?
So it should be like permeated into the whole organization. So in terms of the deliverable, like I had mentioned to you, this intelligent framework that I'm creating starts with that customer's desired path, that journey map from their perspective. And then I start to work with clients to reverse engineer, okay, what are the activities that need to support that? What are the roles and responsibilities that need to conduct those activities? What are metrics that we can use to extend the customer funnel to see what the cadence is of customers going through that journey, and how effectively they're going that journey, so that we can proactively go and help them out when we start to see them struggling at different stages of the journey. When you have all that place and that designed like an architectural blueprint, or a blueprint, then you start to implement that within your systems. You should have your whatever your CRM of record is. You start to incorporate that in there. Where you have your playbooks, and how you track metrics and data, and even to what is developed within the product to bring out these insights. All of that should be like permeating in through the organization. So it's not a map that sits on a wall that everybody walks to on their way to coffee and back again, or from the bathroom. It's literally built into your operations.
And does it get revisited? Is this agile? I mean, presumably, like, things happen, like, for example, a global pandemic, and lo and behold, behavior changes. So presumably every once in a while we're needing to question the assumptions that are behind this.
Well, and so I like to talk about the utopian ideal, vision and idea, because I want us to aim to sort of getting to that ideal state, because then you can see where it's not working, and then you can determine where you need to keep making modifications. But this notion of the intelligent framework and being organizationally agile is really a key concept here. So that the notion that we should be continually observing what's working and what's not, and getting insights and pulling those insights out from our observation of the journey and back into our operational kind of framework, so that we keep improving and we keep observing as a course of business. So it's no longer about, we're like literally revisiting on a daily basis, on a minute by minute basis, because the framework is set up to observe what customers are doing, and we should be adjusting that. So it's not like, oh, okay, in 3 months we're going to observe it again, and then we're going to adjust our playbooks or adjust the journey map. It's, hey, we've got a framework in place based on the assumption that this is the journey map and that this is everything that's aligned to it. And as we see and we're measuring and seeing how customers are thriving or faltering through the journey, we should then be updating where they're thriving. We should be updating that and making sure we're supporting all the customers through that. So taking those insights and using that, and where they're faltering, we should take that information and see what we need to change. So if everyone's always having a difficulty in certain aspect of the product, that should be a key indicator that you now need to like really work on that area of the product to make it more user friendly or easier to use, etc. And you're continually doing that on a regular basis through observation of the journey. And I'll use the analogy of, so we've always had this marketing and sales funnel, right? And it keeps evolving, and it's pretty sophisticated, and we can understand whether we're going to hit our targets and close deals and see where the revenue is running. Post sales, what companies have are KPIs to measure the operational effectiveness and measure tasks and activities that account management or customer success, etc., do in order to get the customer successful. We don't typically measure where the customer is in their journey. And so I've actually developed this what I haven't seen out there yet. So, industry first extension of metrics that I develop with clients to understand what your customer needs to be successful. And then we're going to figure out, how do you measure that?
Now, you've mentioned, Kia, the intelligent framework a couple of times. I know this is something that you've built yourself. Give us the couple-minute intro into what this is and what we might expect from it.
Yeah. So again, it's this customer-centric model where we start with that customer's desired path, that journey map from their perspective, and then start to align what are the activities that support the customers through that journey, what are the roles and responsibilities, and what are the metrics. And then that's that. It's taking human-centric design principles and then putting that into this customer-centric business model. And so that's what I call that intelligent framework, and then getting that operationalized within the organization to figure out how it gets systemically built in, so that you are building that organizational agility to observe that journey, and then continually use those insights to improve. That's what I talk about, the intelligent framework. And when I talk about the intelligent, it's not simply the intelligence of aligning properly to what customers need in that successful journey, but also the ongoing intelligence by understanding what those insights are and using those to improve.
Including then the metrics that we're tracking.
Exactly, with those funnel metrics at the end. So you still have your KPIs that you need to run your operations and make sure that everyone's doing what they should be doing, but then actually measuring the customer through that journey, getting those desired path metrics that allow us to measure, much like a sales and marketing funnel, and seeing how the flow of the customers are to success, to the successful stages of the journey.
And would an account manager typically share the results, share those metrics back with the customer, say in a QBR or some type of meeting?
Whoa, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like this is where the intelligence becomes really interesting as well. What you want to do is that the more we can, like we all respond well to understanding how we are doing comparatively. You go to your doctor and we get measured on what is healthy and what's in that healthy range, right? And so too with customers, if we've got these metrics and we can say, hey, this is where we see you're really excelling, and hey, we'd love to, let's dive deeper into what you're doing, because keep on doing that, and we'd also like to learn from that. But likewise, hey, we've seen that you're sort of faltering here, and what we notice is that when customers do 1, 2, and 3, they seem to be better positioned to get through this phase of the journey in a more effective manner. And maybe right now what you're doing is not serving the purpose as well as it could. And we're telling you this based on our observations of the journey of all sorts of customers. And this is where that starts to become really powerful, to share those insights and use them with other customers as well. When we try to get customers to do something, if we ourselves don't know what the path to success looks like and how to measure that path to success, how do we get them to do what we want them to do? Often I've seen, we then start to confuse customer success with making a customer happy. And a customer will say, no, this is not going to work for us. I want to do this. And then we as account managers or CSMs might start to say, okay, we better do this. And we start to bend over backwards, making the customer happy, only to help them fail because we've let them lead us down a different path based on us not understanding what success looks like and how to get them there.
Yes, for sure, that could most definitely happen, and we want to avoid confusing customer happiness with customer results. I want to end here by flipping the question around what are we tracking back to internal metrics. So we have so many KPIs that we're tracking about how we are doing ourselves. In your experience, when I'm properly tracking and have properly developed a customer journey, when I've implemented some type of intelligent framework like you've been discussing, what's in it for me? What do I get out of this? How is this making my life better? How is this getting the CFO off my back? How is this getting my boss off my back?
Okay, this is where I get excited too. I really love, why I love aligning is because for me, it's the most effective way to get that triple win. The win for the customer, the win for the company, and the win for the employee that's trying to service the customer. And I guess by extension, you could say the quadruple win, the win for the customer's main point of contact, who's also trying to achieve their, career objectives, et cetera, and their boss's objectives. When you're aligned to the path that is that ideal path of success and should be, of course it won't, but we want to keep evolving it towards that. You can't help but be aligned. So if you're all rowing in the same direction, the boat is going to go a lot faster than if you're all in a different direction. And so I use alignment to get everybody, to make it easier for everybody to achieve success. So what's in it for me, or that as an account manager, is just a higher probability of achieving success with your customer, because you know what customer success looks like. You can articulate to the customer. You can support it by data and results to show that customer. and make it easier for them to follow your recommendations based on this common understanding of what's going to work. And because you've done this journey map from the customer's perspective, their desired path, they're going to recognize it. It's not going to be foreign to them. They're going to be, yeah, this does make sense because I know my business and you've articulated it properly, that, and I can just intuitively know that this is going to be successful. I now trust you. You've started to build trust, which is really important, obviously, in account management. And now I'm now willing to listen to the suggestions you're making in order for me to achieve my objectives. And you can build that relationship, that trust, and that kind of harmony a lot faster when you've got a framework in place that people can connect and identify with a lot quicker than sort of meeting of the minds could do just from, norming, storming, forming, and performing, right? Like the teamwork later, if you've got something that you're all aligned to.
So give me the brass tacks. What does your data show here about the benefits?
So there's sort of two sets. So there's the results of having a customer-centric model. So my customers on average have accelerated adoption by 33%, increased retention by 9%. They've realized an FTE capacity gain by 25%. What I mean by that is if you don't know what it takes for your customers to be successful, you have to do a lot more work to make sure that you're throwing a wider net to make sure that you're getting success. If you know precisely, you can start to laser focus on what it takes. You can be a lot more efficient. So you start to gain the capacity of your resources by focusing on really, truly where you need human resources to interact with the client. And then you can start to automate lots of the journey and offload that work from your resources in that. And so that's why I talk about this capacity gain. Escalations reduced by half. If you can anticipate what the journey looks like, you then know when a customer is going off course before they go off course. Whereas if you don't, it's harder to do that. Doubled revenue, increased customer satisfaction. Those are results of having that model. The results of doing that with Desired Path and my company is that just like you could always build your own software, your own CRM, etc. Why would you? You would go and buy something that's already proven and someone is focused. So I've got this proven methodology based on years of experience. And by the way, I'm not a consultant from my background. I was a CCO and ran organizations within software companies. So this has been done as I've led organizations 5 times and then over 40 times with a customer base. So it's just creates this proactive customer management, accelerates the build out. It's a disciplined approach to driving revenue. And the ROI typically with my customers has been 1 to 2 months.
Awesome. Well, hey, I think this is a really valuable tool, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all this about the power of doing a great job at mapping your customer journey and then having a thoughtful framework that is agile and is built into the company. It sounds like there's tremendous results there. So Puhm, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's such a pleasure, and I loved discussing this.